Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And it's the day that I answer your questions. And, you know, I've got some good ones this week. And I'm going to probably spend a little bit more time on one or two of them than the others. There's actually three questions. One of them's a multi-parter, sort of a very fun question. The other two kind of serious. So I'm actually going to start with those serious questions. Not that the other one, is not serious, but again, it's a more fun topic than what I'm beginning with. The question comes from Scott McDonald. He's actually the guy that asked a question a couple weeks ago about, Darryl, what's your favorite question? Scott McDonald, host of the ANCAP Barbershop. He is the ANCAP Barber. He says, "Hey, Wombat, I have a friend whose child is severely disabled and prone to constant seizures. He wants to explore CBD oil as a potential remedy, but doctors in Alabama have been reluctant to prescribe it for obvious reasons. There are some vendors that sell CBD oil derived from hemp seeds that contain no THC and will ship to Alabama. I'm not sure if this is the same thing or just some kind of marketing ploy. Can you clear it up? Also, if you have any leads on a reputable vendor, I would love to hear it." So I did some digging. And earlier this year, there was actually legislation passed in Alabama, or actually last year, it was passed, went into effect in Alabama, called Leahy's Law, which improved the access to CBD oil and therapeutic cannabis to some degree. Based on my research, Alabama has what they call an affirmative defense, meaning that if you're charged, you can say, well, no, I have a medical condition, blah, blah, blah. A little bit more info from greenroadsworld.com, where I'll just go ahead and say they happen to sell CBD oils, but they also have information on the legality in various places. They say, yes, CBD oil is 100% legal in Alabama. There are no restrictions on the consumption of CBD oil and no age restrictions. In April 2014, the governor signed SB 174, known as Carley's Law, which allows an affirmative defense against punishment for CBD possession by people suffering from epileptic conditions. And again, there was another law passed or went into effect last year called Leahy's Law. AL.com has that story where a father, Mark Coleman, whose 15-year-old daughter, Marianne, suffers from autism. He says, I ordered shipments 3 days before the law went into effect so that it would be in the mail by the time it started. Leahy's Law made it legal in Alabama for parents or guardians with a medical prescription to possess CBD oil, which is derived from hemp, but lacks most of the psychoactive properties of marijuana. So it sounds as though, and this could just be bad reporting on behalf of the writer there at AL.com, but it sounds as though, Scott, to answer the question, that CBD oil should come from hemp, not from a indica or sativa strain of cannabis. As far as reputable vendors, again, the greenroadsworld.com, where I am getting info, they do wind up selling And there are also a couple other places that I was able to find. And I did a little bit of digging to find out, is Green Roads World, reputable? Like, do they actually deliver? Is their product what it says it is? And the reviews that I was able to find online made it seem as though it's a legit company. I also found something, the website was the CBD Distillery, with only one D, so the cbdistillery.com. Link will be in the show notes. And there's another option as well, and full disclosure, this is a company that I have an affiliate program with. It's not one that I promote very often, but they help medical cannabis patients get therapeutic cannabis in both the forms that have THC and things that only have CBD. That would be CannaSense. Jordan Page, who actually provides the bumper music for the show, he is somehow involved with the company. I found out from a friend of a friend that's, I also know Jordan. So, I didn't find out directly from Jordan about CannaSense, but I found out from a mutual friend, and I reached out, and he was like, oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. He got me set up. And so the website there, cbd.fppradio.com, if you want to use my affiliate link to get to CannaSense. And, again, they have CBD oil, plus they have cannabis that has THC. So to answer the question again about, the CBD oil that is derived from hemp, is that legit or is it a marketing ploy? No, it seems to be legit. Next question, sticking to drug-related things. And, let me, before I get into this next question, because, there's not a lot of time left in this segment, just want to say that, a lot of the issues here of being able to find CBD oil without having to worry about going to jail or finding it from a reputable company would not be an issue absent the war on drugs. The war on drugs has caused these problems. These are not problems caused because, there's a free market. Nope, there's not a free market. If there was, we wouldn't have a lot of these problems. Stay tuned. There's more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and numerous supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $1 per month through Patreon and get perks like ad-free versions of FPP Radio News and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's fans.fppradio.com.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism, the friendliest anarchist you will ever meet. And I'm going to get back into the questions. But I've got one for you. Do you want to get your hands on some gold and silver? Maybe you've got some gold and silver that you want to get off of your hands. Well, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage can help. They have been around, and apologies if I sound a little distracted. Website just started playing some audio. Now, luckily, the system that I have, you did not hear the audio. You just heard Darryl sounding distracted. But you want to get your hands on some gold or silver? Maybe you want to, let go of some gold or silver. Roberts & Roberts Brokerage can help. They've been doing that since 1977. And they take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases. And they are so into cryptocurrencies, they've made it easy for you. They've permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in digital currency. So call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760. That's 800-874-9760. Or maybe you don't want to talk to Tim. Maybe you don't want to talk to the wonderful people down in Pensacola at Roberts & Roberts Brokerage, but you still want to buy some gold or silver from them. Well, that's fine. They've also got a website. No human interaction required when you go to rrbi.co. rrbi.co, or give a call, 800-874-9760, 874-9760. Next question. This came from a Facebook discussion, and while I answered the question in the Facebook thread, it's still an AMA question, so I'm going to answer here as well. It was comments on a post from the Conservative Tribune. I'll read the headline in just a second, but my friend says, if this is true, I'm in trouble. I take this to control my IBS. If this is true, I blame the dangerous and failed war on drugs. Darryl, for your next AMA, can you check the validity of this article? Again, link was to an article from conservativetribune.com. Headline, Mom finds piles, not pills, but it was pills. Mom finds pile of diarrhea med packages, then learns chilling truth about son. And then the claim is that this woman's son was taking large amounts of Imodium A-D. That's an anti-diarrhea medicine, if you're not familiar with it. Claim is, and I've found a couple of articles that basically all go back to this single doctor who wound up reporting on this somewhere. So I don't know how widespread this is. But again, the claim in the article is about one specific woman's son. So I can't verify personally whether or not, this actually happened, but it does appear that at least a couple of people have decided to take large amounts of Imodium A-D to wind up simulating the effects of opiates. Yeah, that's right. They're taking large amounts. And when I say large amounts, I'm not talking about just, they took 5 instead of 1. No. We're talking about somewhere between 50 to 500 pills per day to wind up simulating the effects of opiates. Again, that article came from Conservative Tribune. They mentioned CBS News, which I pulled up. I also found an article from The Atlantic. And again, they all seem to connect back to one doctor, or actually, he's not even a doctor. He's a clinical toxicologist at SUNY Upstate Medical University, William Eggleston. He says, quote, "It's a cheap, legal, and easily accessible opioid alternative." Again, we're talking about taking what he mentions is 400 to 500 tablets at a time. You, quote, "put it in a blender and make a smoothie and drink it over 1 or 2 hours." This seems like a really, really, really bad idea to wind up, taking a bunch of anti-diarrhea medicine to wind up simulating an opiate high of some sort. And there was a quote from the article here from The Atlantic. Someone who was skeptical of this, a commenter, that it isn't really clear, this article here from The Atlantic, where this came from. But someone expressed skepticism and said, would the constipation rate be worth it? 10 grams is at least 5,000 times the recommended dose. So we're talking about somebody, again, taking 5,000 times the recommended dose of an anti-diarrhea medicine to wind up simulating an opioid high. Seems like that would wind up causing other problems. Now, my friend was concerned that, there might be some kind of federal crackdown on anti-diarrhea medicine, and that she might wind up being a victim of the war on drugs because she takes a prescription medication to control a problem. Well, the interesting thing about the war on drugs is that if you have a doctor's note, then, there's a whole list of things that you can take or possess. But if you don't have that doctor's note and the medication is not in the, approved container, that's when you run into problems. A lot of the opioids that people are overdosing on, they're prescription things, but the people taking them don't have prescriptions for them. Stay tuned. There's more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, including getting into the fun stuff. What's the fun stuff? Well, you'll just have to stay tuned, won't you?
During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davi Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience." Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com, all major bookstores, and now available as an audiobook. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And it's the day that I answer your questions. Now, all of the links that I've mentioned earlier, the article from the Conservative Tribune, that article from CBS News, just heads up, the CBS News article will start playing audio at you. So, you might want to avoid that one. And also, The Atlantic, that link will be in the show notes. The story from AL.com plus the links of where to find those CBD oils will all be in the show notes. And just another note, none of the links that I'm posting for where to purchase products will take you to the dark web. So you don't need to worry about, do I have the right browser? No, you can go to this. I'm not sending you to a .onion site. So don't worry. And again, these all check out as reputable businesses. So the next question, which is several parts, this is the fun question. The questioner writes, in an episode of South Park, the gang sent an orca to the moon. The final scene shows a dead whale on the surface of the moon. Here's where the question comes in. Does it follow normal decomposition processes, or do literally nothing? Are the bacteria able to break down the well from the inside for a time before they run out of material and die? How far does the decomposition get? Or does it just sit there being a dead well? Well, again, I said this is the fun question. So I wasn't able to find info specifically about what happens to dead animals in space, but I did find an article from CNET about what happened or what would happen to a human body if a human body were floating in space. So they wind up saying, and I'm going to skip a couple paragraphs here. The first thing, and again, this is a human, so the first thing, if you or I were to just be floating in space, we'd notice a lack of air. Would not lose consciousness right away. It would take about 15 seconds for your body to use up the remaining oxygen reserves from your bloodstream. Now, again, the question is about an already dead animal launched into space, but bear with me. I'm getting there. If you were still alive and you did decide to hold your breath, the loss of external pressure would cause the gas inside your lungs to expand, which would rupture the lungs and release air into the circulatory system. The first thing to do if you ever find yourself suddenly expelled into the vacuum of space is to exhale. The other things you can't really do much about. After about 10 seconds, your skin and the tissue underneath will begin to swell as the water in the body starts to vaporize in the absence of atmospheric pressure. You won't balloon to the point of exploding, though, since human skin is strong enough to keep from bursting, and if you're brought back to atmospheric pressure, your skin and tissue will return to normal. It also won't affect your blood since your circulatory system is able to keep your blood pressure regulated unless you go into shock. The moisture on your tongue may begin to boil, though, as reported by Jim LeBlanc, who was exposed to near vacuum in a test chamber in 1965. LeBlanc's suit sprung a leak and he remained conscious for about 14 seconds. His last sensation was bubbling on his tongue. He was safely revived, and the researchers began repressurizing the chamber almost immediately after about 15 seconds. Because you would be exposed to unfiltered cosmic radiation, you can expect some nasty sunburn, and you probably would also get a case of decompression sickness. You would not, however, freeze straight away despite the extremely cold temperatures. Heat does not leave the body quickly enough for you to freeze before you suffocate due to the lack of both convection and conduction. Now, here's the part that begins to answer the question. And I say begins to answer because there's more to the answer than this. If you do die in space, or if you're already dead and sent into space, your body will not decompose in the normal way, since there is no oxygen. If you're near a source of heat, and the moon is not a source of heat, your body would mummify. If you're not near a source of heat, and the moon, where this mythical well is, would wind up freezing. If your body was sealed into a spacesuit, you would decompose, and this is where the more interesting part comes in, where they link over to, here from CNET, link over to some, I guess a seminar of some sort done by the UCSB Science Line, USB being University of California, Santa Barbara, where they say there's actually different types of composition. The most rapid one is biological, where bacteria and the body's own enzymes both begin to break down tissue within a few hours of death. There are the processes that we generally call rotting, and they produce the bad odors that we smell. And then there's other types of decomposition, and I'll get into those here in just a moment, here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
In 1999, Darryl W. Perry began a search for traditional values, which led him down a path to the ideas of liberty. He tells the story in A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty. Of the book, Dr. Brian Sovereign says, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes I think it's crazy, but it's always authentic. Find A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty by Darryl W. Perry on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, ask for A Rebel's Journey wherever books are sold, or visit arebelsjourney.com.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs, with a story like no other game before. The liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to ZOG.Ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, ZOG.Ninja, code FPP.
This is Jeremy Scott, host of Dark 30. You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Answering questions about what happens to a dead orca on the moon. Why am I answering that question? Well, because it's the Ask Me Anything, where you literally can ask me anything. Go to ama.fppradio.com. Send in your questions anonymously. ama.fppradio.com. You can attach your name if you want to, or you can make one up. Doesn't really matter. ama.fppradio.com. Question about that South Park episode where they shot an orca onto the moon, and the final scene's just a dead whale on the surface of the moon. So the question was, are there bacteria that would break down the well from the inside out, causing it to decompose, or would it just wind up being a dead whale? And again, CNET had a bunch of pretty good information about what happens if you find yourself shot into a vacuum, and then they get into the fact that your body would not decompose in the normal way because of that lack of oxygen. UC Santa Barbara's Science Line gets into it a little bit differently, to where they say, they answer talking about the types of decomposition or decay or rotting, to where, yes, there are bacteria and enzymes that do eat away at the body, and then you have other things like scavengers, etc. Slower still would be heat degradation, where proteins break down. Chemical exposure will degrade what's left. The bones will eventually decay in weathering, and oxygen will react with proteins and many other things. This won't happen in space, though. Finally, very slow processes such as radiation would eventually break down molecules over millions of years. The level of radiation in space is higher than that on Earth, but not so high that it would degrade quickly. So, in short, what would happen to this well if it were actually real instead of just a cartoon is, well, it would mostly kind of sit there being a frozen dead well on the moon for millions of years until eventually it wound up just degrading because of exposure to radiation. But it would not decompose in the way that things normally decompose. Now, if it was inside of a spacesuit or some other kind of thing with some oxygen, then yes, the bacteria would wind up eating away at the well. But the real answer, it's a cartoon, so it just sort of stays there as a drawing. That's it for this week. Don't forget, I answer your questions every Friday, AMA at FPPRadio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.